assuming that nothing has been decided management-wise since you're meeting with Brian later today?
No, nothing yet. I will be meeting with Brian shortly after the picture taking, and at that point we'll have a first discussion and go from there.
When do you expect to make public going forward what your decisions will be?
Well, as soon as we have a consensus on where we're going. I think that there's a lot of things to discuss. The history, how we got here, where are we going, and the moment that we shake hands, we'll make it public, and I hope shortly.
So if we see you shaking hands,
if you see us shaking hands,
Mr. Melnyk, is it a matter of if Brian Murray's willing to stay on for as long as you would like him to be GM? Is the length of a commitment part of the issue here?
I think it is always an issue of how long, because you want to be able to have him or whoever the next GM is to place their stamp on the team. And to me, it's got to be at least 2 to 3 years before you can start seeing that gel. You've got to go through a draft at least, do some trades, see how the team gets put together, get a new coach in, get them climatized. And I think that's the kind of term I'd be looking for, is something that gives somebody an opportunity to show themselves, show off.
Has the recent success of the team on the ice changed your perception of the people that manage the team?
Well, it sure has. We only wish that what we've seen in the last month and a half, was ongoing throughout the year. But it's a different team right now. We have the young players fighting to get that shot of being in the NHL, and that's a big difference. And you saw that last night. You saw it game after game. You see the leadership coming out of Jason. The veterans are stepping up. The goaltending is second to none. So you do have now the optimism that maybe you wouldn't have had 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago.
But those performances by players, do they influence your view or change your view of Brian Murray as a GM and Corey Klusen as the head coach?
I think they do, in a positive way. There's no question about that. But that doesn't mean that this is that this is it's a snapshot of what could happen. It's a question of whether you can continue that type of play going through a whole season next year, and into the following year, and into the following year. I'd hate to think that this was just purely a 60-day wonder, that this truly is something that we've built upon a foundation that is going to continue bringing a competitive hockey team. And with that, if it does turn out that way, then of course it's going to be positive, positive outlook.
Are you satisfied with the job Brian has done when you consider you missed the playoffs 2 times, you've only won 2 playoff games in 4 years, you've had 4 coaches, on and on? Is that satisfactory to you?
No, it's that part is not satisfactory. We think, and I said this earlier this year, I thought that we really had on paper an elite team, and things just didn't turn out that way, and stuff happens. And in this case, we had underperformance, we had injuries, everything you can imagine happened to the team that just caused us to not perform to expectations.
You said on Fan 590, we got rid of the bad guys, and then you said CBC last night you weren't talking about the players. Can you, expand on that and explain what you meant?
I can, and again, let's put it into context of how the question was asked, because I have never, ever, ever, even in the worst possible, darkest days when we had some real issues with certain players that you know about, did I go out and badmouth a player? And I wouldn't. In this case, the question was in the context of management, and it was almost in half of a joke, like, yeah, we got rid of the bad guys. And trust me, when it comes to players, there's no one that cares about that more than I do. The Fisher trade, I don't know if Brian spoke as an example, we gave up a lot to put Mike into Nashville. We could have gotten a lot more for him, shipping him off to at least 3 other cities that were really after him. But you know what? This is a quality individual who's a leader, who, you know, I thought of him as a friend, and I said, you know what, Brian, make the call to Nashville. That's where she lives. See what you can do for this guy. So we were picking out what can we do for the players that have served us in a good way. And I would do the same thing with any other player that has been with us. And, you know, as you know, we, on an ongoing basis, I always try to host them at the farm. We do whatever we can. Go take a look at the dressing room, the kind of things that we've given them, the tools that we've given them. And it's the same thing with the junior team. So it was definitely, I was not talking about the players. Let's make that very, very clear. All right?
Eugene, how plausible is the scenario where Brian Murray comes back next year, but he's not your general manager? He gets moved up into more of an advisory role.
That's an interesting idea that we talked about earlier, that no matter what, it's in some way I would like to see Brian part of the organization. But again, it's a discussion that's got to take place. You know, he has his life. He lives, you know, very close to here. This is his hometown, so to speak, is Stittsville. But you know, I can say only good things about Brian Murray. Okay, you will never hear me say a bad thing about you know, what he's done. Maybe sometimes I don't like his tie, but that's about as far as it gets. And I'm kidding about that. I actually do. But no, yeah, he's a quality individual. Has been loyal to the organization. Worked very, very hard in the last 2 months. I've said it before. A lot of guys would say, you know, I don't have a contract. I don't need to do. Why should I bust myself for this group? And I don't, you know, until I have a contract. No, he did the exact opposite. He went out and showed what he could do, and I think he did a great job.
Sitting here today, how would you rate Corey Cluson's performance as your head coach?
That's you know, tough for me to assess because I'm not as close to the hockey ops as you may think, and it's more of a yeah. I am going to punt that question.
If I could ask another question about the coach, you talked about the loyalty of Brian Murray, but also the loyalty of Dave Cameron,
Yes.
your St. Mike's coach. And I just wondered, when you talk about a new general manager and you know, deciding who the new coach would be, is Dave Cameron someone you would like to see in the picture here in Ottawa, at least as a candidate?
I think there's a number of quality people that, including Corey. I mean, let's not knock him out of the box. But Dave is a very special individual to me. He's been with me for many, many years. You've seen his success in what he's done with the majors. Yeah, here's a guy who, you know, was promoted to Binghamton for his good work at St. Mike's majors, and then when I asked a favor of, can you come back to St. Mike's, 99% of coaches would turn around and say, you got to be joking. I'm already there. I'm already in the AHL. My next job is an NHL job. No, he turned around and said, I can turn this thing around. I didn't expect this to happen. We thought we left you a good team. Give me 3 years, and I'll turn it around. And look where we are. We're going to be not just we're hosting the Memorial Cup. I think we'll get there anyway, with or without. We would have gotten there anyway, with or without hosting it. So, but there's a lot of very, very good coaches in the league, and he would be somebody that we would certainly consider.
One last question.
Mr.
Sylvain?
How much were you involved in the decision-making process leading to the trade deadline? How much were you involved in deciding what players to trade and what to get back?
I'm trying to remember. We had a discussion that dealt with which players we could get. It was an ongoing kind of thing. It was very fluid at the time. Who was available? Who wasn't available? What could we get from whom? I was just kept informed. At the end of the day, you hire professionals to do their job. Let them do their job. I just want to understand why we're doing this. When it came to a couple of the players, like I said, Mike Fisher would have been one of them. But you know, there was Cam Coley, there was Chris Kelly, there was Kobach, there's a whole group of them. And you know, it was tough. So you'd ask the question several times, are you sure about this? Are you sure about this? And when the offers started coming in for certain players, and it was part of the plan to rebuild the team, you know, it made it painfully obvious, but those are tough decisions. So, but at the end of the day, you leave it to the professionals to make the decisions, and I allowed that to happen. I had no choice. We wanted to see.
You've always been willing to spend to the cap. Do you have any idea at this point, not maybe a dollar figure, but how your approach is going to be heading into the summer and the free agency period, and what your budget may look like on players for next year?
No, we don't. We know that we have a lot of young players, which will help us at the camp. We're going to be one of the few teams that will have the opportunity that when it comes to trade deadlines or, you know, whatever, when required, that we will have space. So that's going to create even more opportunities next year and the year after. So I think we're going to be in a very, very good position. We've got draft picks. We've got 5 in the first 2 rounds, as everybody knows. You know, if we do very, very well, we may need that space 3 years from now. So we've got to be nimble. But that's to create opportunities for long-term. Again, to build for the long term, and that's what's critical. It's no point winning 1 year and then being in a basement for the next 3 or 4. We want to be there, and there's certain model franchises that have done that, and we want to emulate them. So that's where we're going to go. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.